Hi, I'm Belinda Smith and I'm from Renovation and Real Estate, and with me this afternoon is Sally Hart from the Clever Closet Company. How are you, Sally?
I'm really well, Belinda. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to join your audience.
I know, we ran into each other and we first met at an event quite a few years ago. I can't remember when that was now, 2013-ish maybe?
Probably.
Way back. When House
Mm.
Australia first opened here.
It was lovely. It was really lovely, Belinda. You and I, we were the quiet ones up the back thinking that we'd just keep a low profile and we weren't going to do the whole networking thing. We just thought we'd do the nice personal connection, and that was so much more productive.
I agree. It's been a fantastic friendship along the way, and it's been amazing to watch your business grow too. It's been a joy for me. So how did you become a storage expert in the first place, and would you like to share your story?
Okay, it is a little bit of a weird one. It's sort of a niche amongst niches. I started back in the 1980s when the built-in wardrobe industry sort of was booming. It was just coming out of the old days of the 1950s with the carpenters building a daggy old wardrobe, and suddenly people realised they could do things like double hanging, and sliding doors came in, and so the whole revolution of built-in wardrobes took off. And people's expectations suddenly changed about what they could fit into their space. And also, that was sort of when the women were really taking off in their careers. So suddenly, a lot more people had a lot more clothes. So it started. Sorry, go on.
And shoes.
That's right. Well, I think the shoes seem to have come later. But anyway, so we started back then, and actually found that I wasn't expecting I'd like it, but I did. I loved the connecting with the clients. I loved finding out what they needed, and I loved the fact that I don't know, they got a lot of satisfaction out of it. And so from there, I was asked to build a business for that original company, working with architects and interior designers. And that's when I discovered that you really needed to be a lot more bespoke. And so that's when I started my business, and it grew from there. I then sold it for a while, so I had my children, enjoyed being an earth mother, and then started it back up again. It's been a good business for me. It was ready for me to pick up again when I wanted to start up, and it's just grown again from there. And it's become a lot more about general bespoke storage. So wardrobes are the foundation because there's a lot of ergonomics and there's a lot of specialty in that. But with that comes all of the other custom fitted furniture and space planning, which I really enjoy too.
Yes, and I've seen your work and it's beautiful. So who are your clients? Who are your main, clients, and how do they find you?
Well, I think they find me generally either via the website or probably via house. And most of them tend to be, we have clusters of clients. So, but look, most of them are both professionals, often with a family. We have a cluster of clients in the inner city. Naturally enough, they have a lot of pressure on getting the most out of their space. So they're always really lovely clients for us to work with. And then we have the families, in larger homes, often out on acreage. And, they're just wanting everything fitted out really well for them. They have very different demands. They're quite different solutions. And they tend to be busy professionals who are organised in their regular career, and they want their home to be equally organised so that they can get out the door easily. And they also have high expectations of the performance of their home, so they value the real ergonomics and really putting some thought into what goes on the inside.
How do you actually find out exactly what they desire and meet those desires?
Well, our first consult takes 3 to 4 hours. So it's very free flowing. I have tried at times to come up with a form, and I've brought, an operations manager in with me, and she comes along, and we thought she would be able to design a form, but we found there's no such thing because everybody's home is unique. Everybody's family circumstances are unique. And I really like to walk through the home and look at how the whole home works. And, often what the client had in mind is not necessarily going to be the best solution. And so we like to have a really broad discussion. I think about working globally, really big, and then we narrow down. And by doing that, we refine. I think the clients start to understand. We talk big picture, so we can get an understanding of what they want, look, feel, function. And then we narrow it down once we know what their budget is, what their quality requirements are, and what the physical limitations are. So yeah, it's a lot of questions and a lot of concepts.
Yeah, and a lot of getting a feeling for like you said, when you're actually spending time with them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
We do the same. We actually do so much with just tapping into what they actually really desire, and just meeting that desire makes all the difference with their level of satisfaction and, to be honest, what they'll pay.
yes. And also, sharing ideas and pictures and things like that. I mean, I prefer first not to show pictures because I find that it limits people's thinking. They hone in on something and they narrow their focus. So I really like to start just verbally. And then it's always interesting once you've developed your idea of what you think they're talking about. When they show you pictures, you sort of realize, well, they're showing me 10 pictures and they think they're all the same, but they're actually quite different. So then it's working out which aspect of that picture, how much do they know? Is it that they like a shaker door, or is it just that they like white boxes? Is it, is it that they like, butt hinges? Is it the traditional look, or is it, what is it that is the consistent thread? And then bringing their attention to those things, because obviously the average person can't pick that up, but they are instinctively drawn to some things. And so it's understanding which things they're really drawn to, and explaining what the difference is.
And how much are people actually prepared to spend on something that they really love?
A lot.
Give me an exact figure, but you know what I mean. Like, how some people are just, they say that they want to stick to a certain budget, but when you actually present them with something that they truly love and desire, they let their heads run away with them just a little bit.
Well, I guess there's two ways. So there are the people that start, I don't expect people to understand what things cost. I wouldn't know what they cost. And I still often don't. I kind of, I hate it when people ask me, because it's like, what if I'm wrong and their expectations wrong?
Yeah.
So there are the people that start with normal expectations and are sadly, brought to reality that you don't get anything for, like basically, nobody's going to get anything custom built for under $5,000, but that's not even a starting point. So we filter those clients out to begin with, because it's not fair for anyone to start going down a track if they're not going to be realistic. So a typical client of ours would probably be spending, $10,000 on a standard sort of wardrobe. But I mean, there is stuff that's really costs a lot of money out there, and it's not any better than what you can get custom, and it often costs more, there's some very beautiful stuff out there in showrooms.
Yes.
That's $50,000 for a wardrobe.
Yes.
And they're not even ergonomically designed.
Some things just don't fit the space perfectly. And when you get custom, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a difference between custom, in my mind, and what people say is custom, because to me there's a huge problem from my point of view with what clients get. So they'll go to somebody and they'll say it's a custom designed piece. Let's say it's a wardrobe. All that really means is that there aren't any gaps between the beginning of the wardrobe and the end of the wardrobe. So it actually fits the space. But that doesn't mean that the shelves fit their clothes, and it doesn't mean that the ratios are the right ratios for the hanging and shelving, and it doesn't mean that they've thought about how wide his jumpers are and how wide his shoes are. So that's quite deceptive, I think, and that's the difference between whether it stays tidy or not. So that's really.
So tell us about your favourite project and why you loved it.
It is about the people, because when you're designing, I mean, I like to have a photo of my client as well, so that, you're thinking about who they are, and you're thinking about why they want this done and what it is about them. So this particular client is just the most beautiful person. Like, you could think that people that are spending that kind of money are a little indulgent, but these people have worked incredibly hard to do what they've done, and they do a lot of really good stuff for people behind the scenes. So it's really pleasurable. So this is a person who is very feminine, very down to earth, has a house full of boys. She's the only girl in the whole house.
Yes.
And as she's just such a kind person and she loves pretty. So because we've been given this free license, you know, she said, look, you just do whatever you want, Sally. I'm happy. So we've got this whole floor, which is a dressing room. And we can, I said to her, because she loves floral and she does, in some ways you've got to rein it in a little bit. We're going to get it beautiful. We're going to do cabinets with fabric behind the glass so that we can keep the colour consistent. And what I said to her is we could actually do inside the drawers, we could fabric line the drawers with glass over the top for where she's got her jewellery and stuff like that. So it's really personalised. And, you know, we'll have slide out rails for her necklaces because she really loves necklaces and she's got so many of them. So rather than laying them flat, we'll have all these slide out panels that she can just sort of see at her dressing table, and there'll be beautiful lamps on the mirrors. And you know, I can just imagine we're going to do a sofa and we're going to do a window seat and there's a little patio that goes out. And
beautiful. Why not?
It will be beautiful. So that's fun. And to be honest, I spend way more time on those things than I should. I do that when I actually got my candle lit now. I'll light my candle of an evening and I'll pour my wine. I think, okay, here we go. We're going to go into this dressing room now. And it's just lovely.
That's when the best designs are done, with a wine and at night time in the quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to interrupt. So yeah, that's lovely. But it is all based around whatever the client, you know, whoever the client is. So, you know, even if it's a little job, but the client is really appreciative of what you do, then you just enjoy it. Whereas sometimes you have people who don't quite appreciate how much thought goes into it. And that's okay. That's fine. They're just, you know, that's fine. But you never enjoy it as much. It's really lovely when you think about how this person's going to work. You know, and another thing I designed for a lady who was pregnant. So it's like, right, she needed some, I ended up designing, it's where I've done a patent based on this shoe drawer that I did for her, because I thought, well, she's pregnant. It's going to be hard for her to bend down and their space is really tight. How can I get all this in? And I thought if I turn the shoes up vertically, she won't have to reach so far for these shoes. And then I actually thought, well, that's a great design and I've patented the design. But I always think of my client Lisa being pregnant at the time and thinking, this is how I think. I think of the person, what are they doing? How are they moving? What do they need to store? How much space have they got? And it's the people that make the project really good.
And are your clients people who tend to stay in their homes for a long time, or are they people who just want to move through and just understand that the correct storage is very important?
We get both. We certainly ask that question. So, you know, our beautiful client that I'm working with at the moment, that's their home to stay, and which is just as well because, of course, you know, you've got to think about resale when you're spending that kind of money. I would say that most of our clients, when we ask that question, they will say they're there for 5 to 10 years. And so that's very relevant because obviously depending on the value of the home, you know, we have some clients that are more at entry level home, not a lot. Ours tend to be higher end, but we do have clients who are in a 2-bedroom apartment, or they might be in not a project home, but a new build out in Penrith or something like that. And so I feel it's my responsibility to at least alert them to the fact that, you know, this is all well and good for you if that's your priority, but you know, when you need to have the spend relative to the value of the home if you're thinking of selling in 5 to 7 years, I would say.
I totally agree with you there, Sally, but I also know the buyers, when they're looking at a home, they will take particular note of storage.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm aware of course, sorry, go on.
The women, particularly the women.
Oh, look, there's a fantastic video I've done on my clients where they're 2 women. We did their first home and I did not expect they were going to sell. And they called me within, I don't know what it was, maybe a couple of years. And she said, Sally, I need you to do our new home. And I'm like, why? We've just finished doing your old one. And she said, it's actually on my website. She said, the real estate agent said what you did sold the home. She said, we got way more money than we expected. And the real estate agent said it was the point of difference or something like that. So it does come into it. Yes. But the thing, as you would know, what I kind of try to think about is when clients are calling me into a particular area and I know what they're willing to spend, then I would use that as a reference for other people that are looking to sell, because we do have people ask us, you know, can you give us an idea of what we should do for selling? And so then I think, well, you got to know your target market. And if people typically are moving into this area and they might be spending $30,000 on their storage, well, you know, you can probably manage to spend a portion of that on your storage and know that it's going to be valued, but you're not going to want to spend that in a home where people are only spending $5,000 on their storage typically. And, you know, depending on the knowledge of the buyer, if they're a first home buyer, they probably don't realize how much storage costs. So they're probably not going to value it. But if you're into that third home buyer, they've been through the pain of paying for storage before, and so they actually have a much better understanding of the value of it. So, yeah.
And what's a typical project? What's your day look like?
My day.
Yeah.
Well, I try to only go in to see clients once a week. And so we have one day out on the road where we might see one or two clients, and the rest of the time is in my office. So often, you know, you think you're going to spend all day designing, but obviously, as you know, in business, the phone rings and you're doing other stuff. So typically, I might be doing business stuff in the morning. And then in the afternoon, if I can, I'll be sitting at the desk drawing. And then into the evening, I really do like to do my drawing in the evening, especially if I've got a big project, or any project. I like to be uninterrupted, because the foundation of what I do is actually problem solving, and you can't, you know, it's actually really boring. The nitty-gritty bit is really, really boring. It's kind of mathematical, working out how much space there is, how do I fit this stuff in. So you have to do the maths first, and you don't want to be interrupted while you're doing that. And then you want to do you know, how can this now work? And when you're thinking of all the different things that you're trying to fit into someone's space about their priorities, even though you've got it written down, you have them in your head, and you're sort of really immersed in it. So it's a much nicer flow if you can I like to just do it uninterrupted. So yeah, often at the moment now, you know, like we've got things pretty under control, so I can do it through the day. But if I've got a really big project or one I really, really want to play with, I'll leave it till after hours and I just enjoy it then.
Fantastic. With that wine.
Yep. It's really
what does the future hold for you, Sally? Where are you going to take your business from now, do you think?
Well, we are expanding out into doing other aspects of interior design, because it naturally happens that clients will say, you know, do you have any recommendations for curtains? Or do you have any recommendations? And there's other things as well, like, you know, it doesn't always need to be a custom built drawer unit that somebody has. So we're expanding out into finding good suppliers of that sort of stuff as well. And you know, my shoe drawer patent thing, that looks like that's going to take off. So if that takes off, that'll be handy, because, you know, I've got people overseas that want to develop that. So that's another avenue that's kind of interesting. And
creative side of you.
Pardon?
That's the creative side of you.
Yeah, look, you know what? That's actually not that creative, to be honest. Well, it was creative in the beginning. It's that's just a handy product at the end of the day, probably, as long as it all works well, which it looks like it will. And other than that, I really enjoy seeing my designer girlfriends in America. I go over there once a year. We go to the Closet Conference. We do architectural tours, and we have a whole lot of good fun. It's fun being with those women, because they're the only other women, you know, they're my cohort, really, because there's not someone here that does what I do. And I love, I'm part of the Kitchen Bathroom Association, and so we do a tour to Europe every 2 years. So I like doing that. And I think that I may end up living in England for a little bit if my daughter moves over there soon. So I could, you know, I could do a little bit of over there and a little bit of over here, which would be kind of nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
And how can people find you if they need to hunt you down for business?
Well, I guess if they just look on the internet under cleverclosetcompany.com.au, you'll need the whole alphabet to type it into your URL or whatever.
Renovation real estate.
Yeah, I know, it's such a drama, but anyway, yeah, that's where I am. Or you can look at my house profile. I'm there, and a whole lot of
beautiful projects on house.
Yes, thank you very much. It's yeah, it's a great place to showcase the projects actually. So yeah,
Thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon, Sally, and
it's
all the best with your business.
thanks, Belinda, and with yours, we'll follow. And I know that people are getting some brilliant advice on how to renovate their homes for profit under with the two Belindas. So it's been wonderful watching you girls do so well and help so many people and get your profile right out there so everybody knows about you. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And I know where to go to get great storage advice.
Probably the end of the doors, Belinda.
Cup of coffee.
Yep, yep, yep. Thanks, Belinda.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.